I always thought I'd cry on my wedding day. Not from joy, but from the sheer relief of finally having something that was just mine. 3 months out from the big day, and I'd managed to keep it together, until I walked in on my sister wearing my wedding dress. "Oh my God, Tessa, you're early." Violet twirled in front of my bedroom mirror, the ivory satin spilling around her like cream. My dress. The one I'd spent 11 bridal appointments hunting down. The one I'd maxed out my credit card for. The one our mother had insisted on keeping at the family home for safekeeping. I stood frozen in the doorway, my lungs refusing to work. Violet's reflection caught my eye, her perfect teeth flashing in a smile that didn't falter even as she registered my expression. "Don't freak out," she laughed, running her hands down the bodice that fit her annoyingly well. "I just wanted to see what all the fuss was about. You know, Mom kept going on about how gorgeous it is." Of course she did. Mom never shut up about anything Violet did or touched or wanted. "Take it off." My voice came out smaller than I intended. "In a minute. Don't you want to see how the back looks when I—" "Now, Violet." I stepped into the room, my hands shaking. "That's my wedding dress. Not yours. Mine." She rolled her eyes, the same way she had when we were kids and I'd catch her wearing my clothes, using my makeup, borrowing my things without asking. "God, you're so dramatic. It's just a dress." Just a dress. Just my prom dress she'd borrowed and returned with wine stains. Just my college graduation party she'd hijacked with her surprise engagement announcement. Just my promotion dinner where she'd announced her pregnancy, which she later lost once the attention died down. Just my entire life she'd been stepping into whenever she felt like it. "It's my wedding dress," I repeated, my voice steadier now as I crossed the room. "And you're stretching it out." Violet's eyes narrowed slightly. At 27, 3 years my junior, she still had the ability to look wounded in a way that made everyone rush to comfort her. "Are you saying I'm fat?" "I'm saying it was fitted for me." I reached for the zipper at the back. "And I'm saying you had no right to try it on without asking." "Mom said I could." Of course she did. Mom would let Violet set the house on fire if she asked sweetly enough. Mom doesn't get to decide who wears my wedding dress. I tugged the zipper down with more force than necessary, feeling a savage pleasure when Violet yelped as it caught a bit of skin. "Careful," she whined. "God, Tessa, when did you get so selfish? I just wanted to feel pretty for once." For once. As if she hadn't been the pretty one our entire lives. As if strangers didn't stop to compliment her curls while I stood in her shadow with my ordinary brown hair. As if Dad hadn't called her his little beauty while I was his smart cookie. The consolation prize for not being beautiful. "Get out." I held the dress closed at the back while she stepped out of it, leaving it a crumpled heap on my bedroom floor. Violet flounced away in her underwear, unashamed as always. "Jonathan wouldn't like this side of you," she called over her shoulder. "So uptight about everything." The mention of my fiancé sent a fresh wave of anger through me. Jonathan was the one thing Violet hadn't managed to touch, to taint, to take. Yet. I carefully picked up my dress, checking for makeup stains, torn seams, anything she might have ruined. Finding it miraculously intact, I hung it in my closet, hands still trembling. This was supposed to be my weekend to finalize wedding details, not another episode of The Violet Show. I'd taken Friday off work specifically to avoid the usual last-minute rush. Jonathan was meeting me here tomorrow, and we'd spend Saturday with my parents before heading back to our apartment in the city on Sunday. I sat heavily on my childhood bed, the same one I'd cried myself to sleep in countless times growing up. The same room where I'd hidden from Violet's birthday parties when the comparison between us became too painful to bear. My gaze drifted to the bookshelf, where a row of photo albums stood gathering dust. On impulse, I pulled down the oldest one, a scrapbook Mom had kept of our early years. I needed to remind myself that there was a time before Violet, a time when I was enough. The scrapbook fell open to a page I didn't recognize. A hospital photo, but not mine. A birth announcement with unfamiliar names. A letter, yellowed with age, peeking from behind a family portrait. I slid it out, unfolding the thin paper with care. The first line made my heart stop. We understand your situation and are pleased you've chosen our agency for the adoption of your daughter. I read it again. And again. The date. The reference to the Dunn family. The mention of a 3-year-old at home. Me. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me as 30 years of family dynamics suddenly clicked into terrible focus. Violet wasn't just the favorite child. She wasn't even their child at all. I sat there for what felt like hours, the letter trembling in my hands as the foundation of my entire life cracked beneath me. Every memory replayed with sickening clarity. Mom rushing to Violet's side when we both fell. Dad beaming with pride at her mediocre report cards while barely glancing at my straight A's. The way they'd treated her like a miracle. Because she was. Just not their miracle. Footsteps in the hallway snapped me back to reality. I shoved the letter into my pocket and slammed the scrapbook shut just as Mom appeared in the doorway. "There you are," she said, smoothing her already perfect hair. "Dinner's almost ready. Did you see Violet? She said you were upset about something." Of course she'd already gotten to Mom. Preemptive damage control was Violet's specialty. She was wearing my wedding dress. I kept my voice deliberately steady, watching Mom's face for... what? Some flicker of recognition that she'd been caught in a 30-year lie? Mom waved dismissively. "Oh, that. She was just curious, Tessa. You know how girls are with wedding dresses." I'm a girl with a wedding dress. My wedding dress, that I don't want anyone else wearing. She sighed that familiar sigh, the one that said I was being difficult again. "You've always been so possessive of your things, even as a child. My things, my parents, my life, all invaded by a girl who wasn't even their daughter. Why didn't you ever tell me?" The words escaped before I could stop them. Mom froze, her hand still on the doorframe. "Tell you what." I hesitated. The letter burned in my pocket like a loaded gun. Once fired, there would be no taking it back. "That you always let Violet do whatever she wants," I said instead, buying time. "That there's one set of rules for me and another for her." Relief flickered across Mom's face. "That's not true. We've always treated you girls exactly the same." The lie was so blatant I almost laughed. Right. Like when Violet totaled Dad's car and got a new one as a lesson in responsibility? Or when I needed help with grad school tuition and you said I should learn to stand on my own 2 feet? That was different. Violet was going through a difficult time after... After what? Another one of her convenient crises that always seem to happen when someone else is getting attention? Mom's face hardened. "I don't like your tone. And I don't like being gaslit my entire life." I stood up, the scrapbook clutched to my chest. "Do you even hear yourself? You've never treated us the same. Never. Tessa, I understand wedding planning is stressful, but this isn't about the wedding." I was shouting now, 30 years of suppressed rage finally finding its voice. "This is about you and Dad always putting Violet first, always making excuses for her, always making me feel like I wasn't enough." Mom's face paled. For a second, I thought I'd finally broken through. Then I realized she wasn't looking at me. She was looking at the scrapbook in my arms. "Where did you get that?" Her voice had dropped to a whisper. I held it tighter. "It was on my bookshelf, where it's always been." She extended her hand. "Give it to me." "Why? What are you afraid I'll find?" I took a step back. Or should I say, what else will I find? The color drained completely from her face. "What have you seen?" The moment stretched between us like a tightrope. I could step back from the edge, pretend I knew nothing, or I could jump. I pulled out the letter. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. "Tessa, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. Violet is adopted. You and Dad have been lying to everyone. To her. Our entire lives." She moved with surprising speed, snatching the letter from my hand. "Keep your voice down. Do you want her to hear you?" "Maybe she should. Maybe everyone should know the truth for once." "The truth?" Mom hissed, her composure cracking. "You have no idea what the truth would do to this family. It can't be worse than living this lie." She grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in with unexpected strength. Listen to me very carefully. What you found is complicated. There are things you don't know, things you can't understand. Then explain them to me. Her eyes darted to the door, checking for eavesdroppers. Not now, not here. When? After another 30 years of Violet being the golden child while I'm treated like an afterthought? Pain flashed across her face. Is that really how you feel? How else am I supposed to feel? You've always loved her more. That's not true, she whispered, but the conviction was gone from her voice. Then why? Why has it always been her? Mom's shoulders sagged. For the first time, I saw her as she really was. Not the perfect matriarch, but a woman drowning in secrets. Because she needed it more, she finally said. Because we owed it to her. Owed it to her? What about what you owed me? Your actual daughter? The words hung between us like a gauntlet thrown. Mom flinched as if I'd slapped her. Dinner's getting cold, she said, retreating to familiar territory. We'll discuss this later. No, we'll discuss it now or I'm leaving and taking this with me. I held up the scrapbook. She stared at me for a long moment, calculation replacing shock in her eyes. Fine, after dinner, but Tessa? Her voice hardened. Think very carefully about what you're doing. Some secrets protect more than they harm. As she turned to leave, a new thought crystallized in my mind. This secret, this weapon I'd stumbled upon, could finally level the playing field. For once, I held the power to shatter Violet's perfect world the way she'd always shattered mine. And God help me, I wanted to use it. Dinner was excruciating. Dad droned on about golf while Violet dominated the conversation with stories about her latest temp job. I pushed food around my plate, the weight of Mom's secret pressing against my chest. Every laugh, every inside joke between them felt like another betrayal. Tessa hasn't touched her food, Violet pointed out. Her concern so perfectly performed, I almost believed it. Are you still upset about the dress thing? I said I was sorry. No, she hadn't. Not once. I'm fine, I lied. Just tired from the drive. Dad patted my hand. Wedding jitters already? Still 2 months to go, kiddo. 3, I corrected automatically. He never remembered details about my life. 3, right? He turned back to Violet. So what did the boss say when you told him about the client mix-up? And just like that, I disappeared again. Mom kept shooting warning glances my way, as if I might stand up and announce Violet's adoption over dessert. Part of me wanted to. The rational part knew I needed more information first. After dinner, Violet volunteered us both for dish duty. Perfect. I could finally confront her alone. So, I began, handing her a plate to dry. I found something interesting today. She was barely listening, texting with one hand while half-heartedly wiping dishes with the other. A letter. About you. That got her attention. About me? What kind of letter? I took a deep breath. An adoption letter. Violet stared at me, then burst out laughing. Very funny. What, are you getting back at me for the dress? I'm serious, Vi. I found it in Mom's old scrapbook. You're adopted. They've been lying to you. To both of us. Our whole lives. Her smile faded. That's not funny anymore. It's not a joke. I dried my hands and faced her directly. Think about it. Haven't you ever wondered why you don't look like any of us? Why there are no baby pictures of Mom pregnant with you? Stop it. Her voice sharpened. Just because you're jealous. Jealous? Of what? Of everything. She threw the dish towel down. You've always resented me. Always acted like I stole something from you. And now you're making up crazy stories because... What? Your wedding isn't getting enough attention? I saw the letter, Violet. It's real. Then show it to me. I hesitated. Mom took it. Violet rolled her eyes. Convenient. You know what? I'm not doing this with you. Not tonight. She stormed out, leaving me alone with a sink full of dishes. I finished cleaning up mechanically, my mind racing. I needed proof. Something Mom couldn't confiscate. The scrapbook might have more evidence, but I'd need to search it carefully. As I headed upstairs, voices from Dad's study stopped me cold. She knows Richard. Mom's voice tense and hushed. How much? Dad asked. Enough. She found the original letter. Jesus, Cassandra. I thought you destroyed all that years ago. I thought I did too. I pressed closer to the door, hardly breathing. What does she plan to do? Dad asked. I don't know, but she's angry, angrier than I've ever seen her. We need to talk to her. Explain. Explain what? Mom's voice cracked. That we've been lying to both our daughters for 30 years? That we... She stopped abruptly. That we what? I whispered to myself. Dad's voice dropped even lower. No one needs to know that part. Ever. What part? What else were they hiding? I crept away before they could catch me eavesdropping. Back in my room, I pulled out the scrapbook again, examining every page with new eyes. There had to be more. A knock at my door made me jump. Tessa? It's me. Not Mom or Violet, but a male voice. I quickly shoved the scrapbook under my pillow. Come in. The door opened to reveal Raphael, my parents' neighbor. Tall, with perpetually tousled dark hair and eyes that always seemed to see more than they should. Your mom said you were up here. Hope I'm not interrupting. Raphael, what are you doing here? We'd known each other since childhood, but we weren't exactly close. He leaned against the doorframe. Dropped by to borrow your dad's power washer. Heard you were in town for wedding stuff. Yeah. I forced a smile. Just finalizing details. He studied me for a moment. You look like you've seen a ghost. Just tired. Bullshit. He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. I know that look. That's the my family is driving me insane look. I've worn it myself. Despite everything, I laughed. That obvious, huh? Only to a fellow survivor of family dysfunction. He sat on the edge of my desk. Want to talk about it? I'm told I'm an excellent listener, especially when it involves the Dunns. I hesitated. Raphael had always been an outsider looking in on our family. Maybe he'd noticed things I hadn't. Did you ever think there was something off about my family? His expression shifted, becoming more guarded. Off how? Like we're all pretending to be something we're not. He was quiet for a long moment. Everyone's family has secrets, Tessa. Even yours? Especially mine. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Why? What's going on? I almost told him everything. Something about his presence made me want to unburden myself. But I couldn't risk it. Not yet. Just pre-wedding stress. I lied. He clearly didn't believe me, but didn't push. Well, if you need an escape, I'm having a small get-together tomorrow night. Nothing fancy, just drinks on the patio. Might be good for you to get away from... He gestured vaguely. All this. I'll think about it. After he left, I returned to the scrapbook. If my parents had kept one piece of evidence, there might be others. I needed to know everything before confronting Violet again. Because next time, I wouldn't back down without proof. Next time, I'd make her believe me. And then I'd watch her perfect world crumble, just like mine had. I spent half the night combing through the scrapbook, page by page. Most contained the expected family photos. Birthdays, holidays, school events. But I found 3 more pieces of evidence. A hospital bracelet with a different last name than ours. A cryptic note about finalizing arrangements. And a photo of Mom holding baby Violet with a strange woman standing awkwardly beside them. I photographed everything with my phone. Mom might take the physical evidence, but she couldn't erase my digital copies. Morning arrived with the sound of a car in the driveway. Jonathan. I'd completely forgotten he was coming today. I rushed downstairs just as he walked through the front door, his smile warming me even through my exhaustion. There's my bride, he said, wrapping me in a hug that smelled like coffee and his woodsy cologne. Missed you. Missed you too. I buried my face in his shoulder, suddenly overwhelmed by how normal he felt when everything else had turned upside down. He pulled back to look at me. "You okay? You look like you didn't sleep." Before I could answer, Violet bounded down the stairs. "Jonathan, perfect timing. I was just about to make my famous blueberry pancakes." "Famous for giving people food poisoning," I muttered. Jonathan laughed, squeezing my hand in silent solidarity. This was why I loved him. He never got pulled into Violet's orbit the way everyone else did. "Actually," I said, "Jonathan and I have wedding errands to run. We'll grab breakfast on the way." Violet's smile faltered, but Mom wanted to go over the seating arrangements with everyone. "We'll be back for that," I promised, already pulling Jonathan toward the door. "Save us some pancakes." Outside, I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath underwater. "Okay, what's going on?" Jonathan asked as we got into his car. "And don't say nothing because your knuckles are white." I stared out the window at my childhood home, wondering how much to tell him. "If I found out something about my family, something huge that changes everything, would you want to know?" He turned to face me fully. "Is everyone okay? Is someone sick?" "No, nothing like that. It's—" I hesitated. "I found out Violet is adopted. My parents have been lying about it our whole lives." His eyes widened. "Are you serious? How did you find out?" I showed him the photos on my phone, watching his expression shift from shock to confusion. "This is... wow." He scrolled through the images again. "Have you talked to your parents about it?" "Mom knows I found out. She tried to shut me down." "And Violet?" "Doesn't believe me. Thinks I'm making it up out of jealousy." Jonathan frowned. "Jealousy? Of what?" "Of her. Of how my parents have always favored her." The words came out more bitter than I intended. He was quiet for a moment. "Tess, I know your relationship with Violet is complicated, but are you sure this is about her being the favorite? Or is it about feeling like you weren't enough?" His question hit too close to home. "What's the difference? The difference is what you do with this information." He took my hand. "What exactly are you planning here?" I pulled away, suddenly defensive. "I'm not planning anything. I just want the truth out in the open." "Okay." His tone was careful. "And what happens after the truth comes out?" I hadn't thought that far ahead. All I knew was that I wanted Violet to feel what I was feeling. That sickening vertigo when the ground beneath you disappears. "I don't know," I admitted. "But don't I deserve to know why my parents have always treated her differently? Why they've lied to us our entire lives?" "Of course you do." He started the car. "But Tessa, just be careful. Family secrets this big. They don't stay contained once they're out." We drove to a diner on the edge of town, one my family never frequented. Over coffee and eggs I barely tasted, I filled Jonathan in on everything. The letter, Mom's reaction, the strange conversation I'd overheard between my parents. "There's something else they're hiding," I concluded. "Something worse than the adoption." Jonathan looked troubled. "Maybe some things are better left." "Don't say buried," I cut him off. "That's exactly what they want. What they've always wanted. For me to just accept that Violet comes first, no questions asked." "That's not what I meant." He reached for my hand again. "I just don't want to see you hurt more than you already are." His concern softened my anger. "I know, but I can't just pretend I don't know." "So what's your next move?" I thought about Raphael's invitation. "I need more information, and I think I know where to start." After breakfast, we returned to find the house empty, except for a note saying my parents had taken Violet shopping for a dress for the rehearsal dinner. Of course they had. "Perfect timing," I told Jonathan. "Help me search my dad's study." He looked hesitant. "Tessa, please, I need to know if there are more documents." Reluctantly, he agreed. We spent an hour carefully going through filing cabinets and desk drawers, finding nothing until Jonathan noticed a false bottom in the top desk drawer. "Tessa," he called softly. "I think I found something." Beneath the false bottom lay a small key and a business card for a storage facility across town. Why would they keep a storage unit secret? I wondered aloud. Only one way to find out. Jonathan held up the key. But Tessa, are you sure about this? Breaking into your parents' storage unit is crossing a line. He was right. This was different from finding a scrapbook or searching a desk. This was deliberate invasion of their privacy. But then I remembered 30 years of feeling second best, of watching Violet get everything while I got the leftovers of my parents' attention and affection. I took the key from Jonathan's hand. Some lines need to be crossed. The look he gave me wasn't judgmental, just sad. Then I'm coming with you. As we headed for the door, my phone buzzed with a text from Raphael. Still up for tonight? Might have some interesting family history to share. I texted back immediately. Definitely. See you at 8. The pieces were finally coming together. By tonight, I'd have the ammunition I needed to blow my family's perfect facade to pieces, and God help anyone who tried to stop me. The storage facility was on the outskirts of town, a sprawling complex of identical orange doors and padlocks. Jonathan drove in silence, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. I could feel his disapproval radiating across the console. You can wait in the car if you want, I offered as we pulled up to Unit 247. And let you do this alone? He shook his head. Not a chance. The key slid into the padlock with a satisfying click. I hesitated for just a moment before pushing the door up. The unit was smaller than I expected, maybe 10 by 10, and surprisingly organized. Plastic bins lined the walls, each labeled in Dad's precise handwriting. Tax records, family photos, Christmas decorations. This seems normal, Jonathan said, sounding relieved. Too normal. Why keep ordinary household items in a secret storage unit? Help me check the bins, I said, already pulling down one labeled family documents. We worked methodically, finding nothing but exactly what the labels promised until I reached a bin marked Violet Early Years. My heart raced as I pried off the lid. Inside were baby clothes, tiny shoes, a well-worn stuffed rabbit, ordinary keepsakes any parent might save. But beneath them lay a manila envelope. I pulled it out with trembling hands. What is it? Jonathan asked, moving closer. I opened the envelope and froze. Inside was a complete adoption file. Legal documents, medical records, and a series of letters between my parents and someone named Eliza Romero. Romero, I whispered. Like Raphael. What? Raphael's last name is Romero. I flipped through the papers frantically. These are letters from Violet's birth mother. She was a teenager when she had Violet. I stopped, the words on the page swimming before me. She was only 15. Jonathan looked over my shoulder. Jesus. My parents paid her family to keep quiet about the adoption. It was all under the table. I kept reading, each page more damning than the last. They falsified the birth certificate to make it look like Mom gave birth to her. That's illegal, isn't it? Very. I sat back on my heels, trying to process what I was seeing. But why go to these lengths? Private adoptions were legal back then. Jonathan picked up one of the letters I'd set aside. This might explain it. He handed me a handwritten note, the ink faded but still legible. Richard, the money has been transferred as agreed. Remember our arrangement? No one can ever know where the child came from or the circumstances of her birth. Your reputation and mine depend on this remaining buried. E.R. E.R., I repeated. Eliza Romero. What reputation is he talking about? I shook my head, pieces starting to click together. Dad was just starting his law practice back then. A scandal would have ruined him. But what scandal? Adopting a child isn't... Unless... A horrible thought struck me. Unless there's more to it. Something they're still hiding. I dug deeper into the bin, finding a newspaper clipping from 30 years ago. The headline made my blood run cold. Local teen missing, foul play suspected. The article detailed the disappearance of 15-year-old Eliza Romero, who vanished for 6 months before returning home after running away. There was no mention of a pregnancy or a baby. Tessa? Jonathan's voice was careful, measured. What exactly are you thinking? I don't know. But I did know. The terrible possibility was taking shape in my mind. But Raphael might. Raphael? What does he have to do with this? He's a Romero. He might be related to Violet's birth mother. I checked my watch. And I'm meeting him tonight. Jonathan grabbed my wrist. Tessa, stop. Think about what you're doing. If what you're suggesting is true, if your parents were involved in something illegal, do you really want to expose that? What would it do to Violet? To your family? My family? I laughed bitterly. You mean the people who've been lying to me my entire life? Who made me feel like I wasn't enough while they were hiding all this? Yes, those people. Your people. His voice softened. I know you're hurt. You have every right to be. But revenge won't heal that hurt. This isn't about revenge. Isn't it? He looked at me steadily. Be honest with yourself, Tessa. What do you want more? The truth? Or to see Violet suffer? His question hit me like a slap. I wanted to deny it, to claim some noble pursuit of truth. But the satisfaction I'd felt imagining Violet's world crumbling was anything but noble. I don't know anymore, I admitted, my voice small. Jonathan helped me replace everything exactly as we'd found it. We locked the unit and drove back in silence, the weight of what we'd discovered pressing down on us both. Back at my parents' house, we found them returned from shopping, Violet modeling her new dress in the living room. There you are. Mom's voice was too bright, her smile too fixed. Where have you two been all day? Just wedding errands. I lied smoothly. Last-minute details. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not believing me but unwilling to challenge me in front of Jonathan. Well, you're just in time for lunch, Dad said, clapping Jonathan on the shoulder. And then we can go over those seating arrangements. I watched my father, this man I'd known my entire life, wondering what other secrets he was hiding behind his affable smile. What had happened 30 years ago with a teenage girl named Eliza Romero? Actually, I said, I'm meeting Raphael for drinks tonight. He's having a small get-together. The glass in Mom's hand slipped, splashing water across the hardwood floor. Raphael? Raphael Romero? Yes. I watched her face carefully. Is that a problem? Mom and Dad exchanged a look I couldn't decipher. No. Dad said too quickly. No problem at all. We just didn't realize you two were friends. We go way back, I said, enjoying their discomfort. In fact, he mentioned having some interesting family history to share. The color drained from Mom's face. Tessa, I need to speak with you. Privately. After lunch, I said sweetly. I wouldn't want to be rude to our guests. As we moved to the dining room, Jonathan squeezed my hand in warning. I squeezed back, silently promising to be careful. But careful or not, I was done being in the dark. Tonight, I would get answers. From Raphael, from my parents, from whoever could fill in the blanks of this twisted family story. And then I would decide what to do with the truth. Lunch was excruciating. I pushed food around my plate while Mom kept shooting worried glances my way. Dad maintained a stream of meaningless small talk, and Violet dominated the conversation as usual. Only Jonathan seemed to notice I was barely holding it together, his hand occasionally finding mine under the table. After we finished eating, Mom cornered me in the kitchen. Whatever you think you know about Raphael's family, you're wrong, she said, her voice low and urgent. Am I? I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Then why don't you tell me what I should know? Her eyes darted toward the dining room, checking that we were alone. It's complicated, Tessa. There are aspects of Violet's adoption that were unconventional. Unconventional? I almost laughed. Is that what we're calling illegal private adoptions now? Her face paled. How did you... I have my sources. I wasn't about to reveal the storage unit. I know about Eliza Romero. I know she was 15 when she had Violet. I know money changed hands. Mom gripped the edge of the counter. You don't understand. We were helping her. By paying her family to cover up her pregnancy? By falsifying birth records? I shook my head. That doesn't sound like help. That sounds like exploitation. It wasn't like that. Her voice cracked. Richard and I couldn't have another child. When the opportunity came, Opportunity? The word turned my stomach. A pregnant teenager was an opportunity for you? Stop twisting my words. For the first time, real anger flashed in her eyes. We gave Violet a good life. A better life than she would have had otherwise. And what about me? What kind of life did you give me while you were so busy making everything perfect for your bought and paid for daughter? The slap came out of nowhere, the crack of her palm against my cheek echoing in the kitchen. We both froze, equally shocked. Mom? Violet appeared in the doorway, eyes wide. What's going on? Mom stepped back, her hand trembling. Nothing. Just a disagreement about the wedding. Violet looked between us, clearly not believing it. Is this about yesterday? About the dress? Because I really am sorry, Tessa. I wasn't thinking. The sincerity in her voice made something twist inside me. She had no idea what was coming, what I was about to unleash on her life. It's fine, I managed. Everything's fine. I brushed past them both, finding Jonathan in the living room with Dad. We need to go, I whispered. Now. Jonathan didn't question me, just made our excuses and led me outside to his car. What happened? He asked once we were driving. Your cheek is red. I touched my face, still feeling the sting of Mom's palm. She slapped me, first time ever. Jesus, Tessa, what did you say to her? The truth. I stared out the window as familiar streets blurred past. I told her I knew about Eliza Romero. Jonathan was quiet for a moment. And what did she say? She tried to justify it, said they were helping her. I turned to face him. I need to know what really happened, Jonathan. And Raphael might have answers. Are you sure this is wise? Meeting him alone? I won't be alone. You'll be with me. He hesitated. Actually, I think you should do this part without me. I stared at him. What? Why? Because this is between you and your family. He pulled into the parking lot of our hotel. And because I'm worried about what you might do with whatever you learn tonight. What's that supposed to mean? It means I love you, Tessa. But I don't recognize this version of you. This person so focused on revenge that she's willing to tear her family apart. His words stung worse than Mom's slap. That's not fair, isn't it? He turned off the engine. Tell me honestly, what's your plan after you get all the facts? What do you intend to do to Violet? I couldn't answer. The truth was, I didn't know anymore. The satisfaction I'd imagined in watching Violet's world crumble now felt hollow, tainted. That's what I thought. Jonathan sighed. I'll be here when you get back. Just think about what you really want, Tessa. Not just what you think you deserve. I left him at the hotel, driving my rental car to Raphael's house with a knot in my stomach. The sun was setting as I pulled into his driveway, casting long shadows across his front lawn. Raphael opened the door before I could knock. You came. He sounded surprised. I wasn't sure you would. You said you had family history to share. I stepped inside, noticing immediately that there was no party. No other guests. Where is everyone? There is no get-together. He led me to his back patio where a bottle of wine and 2 glasses waited. I just needed to talk to you. Alone. Warning bells rang in my head. About what? He poured wine into both glasses, his movements deliberate. About Violet. About my Aunt Eliza. About what your parents did 30 years ago. My heart pounded. So you do know. I've always known. He handed me a glass. What I don't know is how much you figured out. I took the wine but didn't drink. I know Eliza was Violet's birth mother. I know she was 15. I know my parents paid to keep it quiet. Raphael nodded slowly. That's part of it. What's the rest? He took a long sip of his wine, eyes never leaving mine. The rest is why it had to be kept quiet. Why Eliza disappeared for 6 months. Why your father was so desperate to make the whole thing go away. Tell me, are you sure you want to know? Once I tell you, there's no going back. For any of us. I thought about Jonathan's warning, about Mom's desperation, about Violet, who had no idea her entire life was built on secrets. But I'd come too far to turn back now. I'm sure. Raphael set down his glass. Eliza wasn't just any pregnant teenager. She was your father's client's daughter. She was 15 and the father of her baby was 38. Your father helped cover it up to protect his client. My uncle. My stomach lurched. Your uncle? Yes. His eyes hardened. The same uncle who later became your father's law partner. The same man who's now a judge. The implications hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about an illegal adoption. This was about statutory rape. About powerful men protecting each other. About a teenage girl used and discarded. And Violet, my sister, was the living evidence of their crime. Why are you telling me this now? I whispered. Because it's time someone in your family knew the truth. Raphael leaned forward. The question is, what are you going to do with it? I couldn't breathe. The patio seemed to spin around me as Raphael's words sank in. I set my untouched wine down before I dropped it. Your uncle raped a 15-year-old girl, and my father helped cover it up. Saying it aloud made it real. Undeniable. Raphael nodded, his face grim. Eliza never recovered. She tried to kill herself twice after giving up Violet. The second time, she succeeded. Oh my God. Bile rose in my throat. I'm so sorry. I was 10 when it happened. Old enough to understand something terrible had happened to her, but not what. He stared into his wine. It took years to piece it all together. By then, the statute of limitations had passed for the statutory rape. The falsified adoption records would still be prosecutable, but that would hurt Violet. I finished. She'd lose everything. Exactly. I thought of Violet in my wedding dress, twirling without a care in the world. Violet, who had no idea she was the product of a crime. Violet, who wasn't responsible for any of this. What do you want from me, Raphael? I want justice for Eliza. His voice hardened. Your father and my uncle destroyed her life, then went on to build successful careers like nothing happened. They should pay for that. And Violet? What happens to her in your justice scenario? He hesitated. Collateral damage. The callousness of his words shocked me. She's a person, not collateral damage. She's my sister. Half-sister, technically. And not by blood. That doesn't matter. I stood up, suddenly certain. I'm not going to destroy Violet's life to punish my father. Then what will you do? Raphael challenged. Pretend you don't know? Go back to being the overlooked daughter while Violet gets everything? His words hit a nerve. Wasn't that exactly what I'd been angry about? Wasn't that why I'd started this whole investigation? I don't know yet, I admitted. But I know destroying Violet isn't the answer. I left Raphael's house with my head spinning, driving aimlessly through town as I tried to process everything. Without conscious decision, I found myself parked outside my parents' house. Through the living room window, I could see them, Mom, Dad, and Violet, watching TV together. They looked so normal, so untroubled. How could they sit there like that with such a terrible secret hanging over them? My phone buzzed with a text from Jonathan. Are you okay? Call me. I couldn't call him. Not yet. Not until I decided what to do. I walked up to the front door, my footsteps heavy on the familiar path. Inside, the TV went silent as I entered. Tessa? Mom stood up, her face anxious. We weren't expecting you back tonight. We need to talk. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. All of us. Dad muted the TV. What's this about? I think you know. I looked directly at him. I just came from Raphael's. The color drained from his face. Beside him, Mom sank back onto the couch. What's going on? Violet looked between us, confused. Why is everyone acting so weird? Violet, honey, maybe you should go upstairs. Mom suggested weakly. No. I shook my head. She stays. This involves her most of all. Dad stood up, his lawyer face sliding into place. Tessa, whatever Raphael told you? Was it true? I cut him off. Did you help cover up the statutory rape of a 15-year-old girl? Did you falsify adoption records to hide where Violet came from? What? Violet's voice was barely a whisper. Dad's professional mask cracked. It wasn't like that. You don't understand the circumstances? Then explain them to me. I was shouting now, years of suppressed rage finally breaking free. Explain how you could do something so despicable and then come home and tuck us into bed at night like you were a good man. Richard, don't. Mom pleaded, but he wasn't listening. I did what I had to do, he roared back. Martin was my biggest client. If I'd reported him, my career would have been over before it began. We'd have lost everything. So instead, Eliza lost everything. Her baby, her mental health, eventually her life. The words tasted like poison. Was your career worth her suicide, Dad? He staggered back as if I'd struck him. Suicide? What are you talking about? Eliza Romero killed herself after giving up Violet. Raphael told me. Mom made a small, broken sound. We didn't know. Richard, we didn't know. Would it have mattered if you did? I asked bitterly. Of course it would have, Mom cried. We thought we were helping her, giving her a chance at a normal life while giving her baby a good home. By paying her family to keep quiet? By pretending she never existed? We were wrong, Dad admitted, his voice hollow. We were young and scared and wrong. Throughout our exchange, Violet had been silent, her face growing paler by the second. Now she stood, her legs visibly shaking. I'm adopted? Her voice cracked. My biological mother killed herself, and you never told me? Mom reached for her. Violet, sweetheart, don't touch me. Violet jerked away. My whole life has been a lie. Everything I thought I knew about myself is fake. The raw pain in her voice cut through my anger. This was exactly what I'd wanted. To see her perfect world shattered. But now that it was happening, I felt no satisfaction. Only a crushing sadness for the sister I'd resented for so long. Violet, I said softly, this doesn't change who you are. She turned to me, tears streaming down her face. How can you say that? It changes everything. My birth, my parents, my entire identity. All lies. Not all of it. I moved toward her slowly, as if approaching a wounded animal. You're still the same person you've always been. Still talented and charming and loved. Loved? She laughed bitterly. By who? These people who've been lying to me my entire life? Or you, who's always hated me? Her words hit me like a physical blow. I never hated you, Vi. Yes, you did. I always felt it. I never understood why, but I felt it. She wiped angrily at her tears. And now I find out you're not even really my sister. I am your sister, I insisted, reaching for her hand. Blood or not. She pulled away. Don't pretend you care now. You wanted this. You wanted to hurt me. The truth of her accusation silenced me. She was right. I had wanted this until I saw the real pain it would cause. I'm sorry, I whispered. I was wrong, but Violet wasn't listening anymore. She pushed past me, grabbing her car keys from the hook by the door. Violet, wait, Mom called. Where are you going? Away from all of you. She yanked open the front door. Don't follow me, don't call me, just don't. The door slammed behind her, leaving the three of us standing in the wreckage of our family's carefully constructed lies. And for the first time in my life, I felt no triumph in Violet's pain. Only the sickening realization that in my quest for justice, I'd become exactly what I hated most about my parents. Someone who destroyed lives to get what they wanted. The silence after Violet left was deafening. Dad collapsed onto the couch, head in his hands. Mom stared at the door as if willing Violet to return. And I stood in the middle of our broken family, the architect of its final destruction. Are you happy now? Mom's voice was barely audible. I wasn't. I felt hollow, sick with the realization of what I'd done. We need to find her. She doesn't want to be found, Dad said dully. I don't care. I grabbed my own keys. She shouldn't be alone right now. Neither of them moved to stop me as I headed for the door. Neither offered to come with me. In their eyes, I'd caused this catastrophe. Let me fix it. Outside, rain had started to fall, a fine mist that quickly soaked through my thin sweater. I tried calling Violet's cell, but it went straight to voicemail. Where would she go? Not to friends. Violet kept people at a distance, something I'd always attributed to her golden child status, but now recognized as insecurity. On impulse, I drove to the small lake at the edge of town where we'd gone as children. It was our special place once, before resentment and jealousy had poisoned everything between us. The parking lot was empty except for one car, Violet's. Relief flooded through me as I pulled up beside it. Through the rain-streaked windshield, I could make out her silhouette on the small wooden dock that extended into the water. I approached slowly, my shoes squelching in the mud. She didn't turn as I walked onto the dock, though she must have heard me coming. I told you not to follow me. Her voice was raw from crying. Since when do I listen to you? I tried for lightness but failed. Go away, Tessa. Instead, I sat down beside her, dangling my legs over the edge like we used to do. The rain fell harder now, plastering our hair to our faces, but neither of us moved to seek shelter. I'm sorry, I said finally. I never meant for it to happen like this. How did you mean for it to happen? She turned to look at me, her makeup streaked down her cheeks. Did you think it would hurt less if you told me some other way? Or did you just want to see me suffer? The question deserved honesty. At first, I wanted to hurt you. I was so angry, not just about the dress, but about everything. About how they always favored you. How nothing I did was ever enough. They didn't favor me, she said bitterly. They were compensating. What do you mean? I always knew something was off. The way they'd overreact when I was sick. The way they'd panic if I was late coming home. She wiped rain from her eyes. They weren't favoring me, Tessa. They were overcompensating for their guilt. I'd never considered that perspective. Had I misread everything all these years? It doesn't matter now, Violet continued. None of it was real anyway. That's not true. I reached for her hand, half expecting her to pull away. She didn't. Their love for you is real, misguided and twisted up with guilt, maybe, but real. What about your love? Her question was so quiet I almost missed it over the rain. Was that ever real? The question pierced me. Had I ever truly loved my sister, or had I been too consumed with resentment to try? I think I was so busy being jealous that I never gave myself a chance to know you. I squeezed her cold fingers. But you're still my sister, Violet. That hasn't changed. Everything has changed. She pulled her hand away. My birth mother killed herself because of what happened to her. The man who raised me helped cover up her rape. And you... Her voice broke. You knew all this and used it as a weapon. Each word was a deserved blow. You're right. What I did was unforgivable. Then why are you here? What do you want from me? What did I want? Not forgiveness. I hadn't earned that. Not absolution. Some sins can't be washed away. I want a chance to be better, I said finally. To be the sister I should have been all along. Violet was quiet for so long I thought she wouldn't respond. When she did, her voice was steadier. I used to wish I could be you. What? Why would you want to be me? Because you were so sure of yourself. So strong. You never seemed to need anyone's approval. She looked out at the rain-rippled water. I've spent my whole life trying to be perfect because I was terrified of disappointing them, of being sent away if I wasn't good enough. The revelation stunned me. All these years, I'd envied her the very thing that had been tormenting her. You know what the worst part is? She continued. I always thought if I was just good enough, you'd stop hating me. That we could be real sisters. We are real sisters, I insisted. Maybe not by blood, but by history. By choice. Choice? She laughed hollowly. When have either of us had a choice in any of this? We have one now. I stood up, extending my hand to her. Come with me. Where? To confront the other person responsible for all this. The one who's gotten away with it all these years. Understanding dawned in her eyes. Your father's law partner. My biological father. I nodded. Martin. Judge Martin now. Why would I want to see him? Because you deserve answers. Because he should have to look you in the eye after what he did. Because we both need to stop letting other people's secrets control our lives. She stared at my outstretched hand, rain streaming down her face. And if I say no? Then I'll drive you wherever you want to go. No questions asked. Violet took a deep breath, then reached up and took my hand. Okay. We drove in silence to the affluent neighborhood where Judge Martin lived. I'd been to his house for law firm parties as a child, had eaten his food and accepted his gifts, never knowing what he'd done. As we pulled into his circular driveway, Violet's breathing quickened. I don't know if I can do this. You don't have to. I turned off the engine. But whatever you decide, I'm with you. Not against you. Never again. She studied my face, searching for sincerity or deceit. Whatever she saw must have satisfied her, because she nodded once and opened her door. Together, we walked to the front door of the man whose actions had shaped both our lives without our knowledge or consent. Together, we rang the bell. Together, we waited in the rain for the door to open. And when it did, revealing the distinguished gray-haired man I'd known all my life, I felt Violet's hand slip into mine, squeezing tight. Can I help you? He asked, not recognizing us in the darkness. Violet stepped forward into the light. My name is Violet Dunn, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hand. And I believe you're my father. His face went slack with shock, then fear. Behind him, a woman appeared. His wife of 40 years, who had no idea what her husband had done. In that moment, looking at their stunned faces, I realized something profound. The truth doesn't heal all wounds. It doesn't undo the past. But it does something more important. It gives us the power to write our own futures, free from the shadows of secrets we never asked to keep. Whatever happened next, whether justice or reconciliation or something in between, Violet and I would face it together. Not as rivals, but as sisters. Not perfect, not whole, but real. And for the first time in my life, that felt like enough.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brenda. How do you plan to handle college while working two jobs? Be realistic. Rick's words stung as I arranged the appetizers at Reynolds Corp's holiday party. I was just a caterer back then, dreaming of something bigger. The customers are waiting, he added with a condescending gaze. I forced a smile, dodging his stare, not knowing then that this smug middle manager would one day become my husband and my biggest mistake. You're different from other waitresses, he said later that evening, turning on the charm. Let me take you to dinner sometime. That's how it started. Rick Cooper swept me off my feet with expensive dates and promises of a better life. 6 months later, we were married. Brenda, darling, you don't need to work those demeaning jobs anymore. My new mother-in-law, Diana, cooed at our wedding reception. A Cooper woman has certain standards to maintain. But I had my own dreams. I'm still planning to finish my business degree, I told Rick one evening. Oh, honey, why waste time on that? You've got me now, he laughed, pulling me close. I make 6 figures, just focus on being my wife. My best friend, Amanda, was the first to see through him. Over coffee one morning she warned me, Brenda, he's trying to control you. This isn't love. He just wants what's best for me, I defended. But doubt was creeping in. The transformation was gradual. First, Rick forgot to give me gas money. Then he started questioning every purchase. My part-time college classes became a constant target. Another B minus. Maybe this just isn't for you, babe, he mocked, his words cutting deep. Stick to what you're good at, making my dinner. I began hiding my textbooks, studying in secret while he worked late. Amanda helped me set up a hidden bank account. Your wife is still playing student, huh? I overheard Kevin, Rick's colleague, say one day. But there was something in Kevin's voice, a hint of concern. Maybe he didn't agree with Rick's sneer. Mrs. Cooper, Patricia from HR, found me crying in the restroom during another company event. If you ever need to talk. That evening, Diana dropped by unannounced. Darling, I heard you're still taking classes. Some women just aren't meant for the corporate world. Rick needs a proper wife. I can be both, I insisted. Can you? Look at yourself. Bargain store clothes, student loans. Thank goodness Rick doesn't mind supporting such modest beginnings. I forced a smile, thinking of my hidden Dean's List certificate. She had no idea. Watching Rick boast about his promotion that night, I made a silent vow. One day, they'd all see what this waitress was truly capable of. But first, I had to survive being Mrs. Cooper. And the worst was yet to come. Brenda, stop embarrassing me. Rick's voice boomed across the ballroom at the Reynolds Corp event. I dared to share my thoughts on market expansion with a board member. My wife thinks her community college classes make her a business expert, he sneered, tightening his grip on my arm. The room fell silent, and Marcus Reynolds himself raised an eyebrow. Actually, I just completed my MBA with honors at. Why don't you get us some drinks, honey? He cut me off. Later that night, Amanda called. You won't believe what I just heard. Rick's been seeing Melissa Brighton, the investor's daughter. My hands shook. I have proof, Amanda continued. Kevin sent me photos. He's worried about you. The next day, diploma in hand, I walked into Patricia's office. I need to report workplace harassment. Finally, she sighed, pulling out a thick file. I've been documenting his behavior for months. The sexist comments, the undermining. Mrs. Cooper, I mean Brenda. Kevin met me in the parking lot. There's something else you should know. Rick's been doctoring expense reports. At lunch with Amanda, I knew what I had to do. I want a divorce. Already working on it, she replied, sliding a folder across the table. And I've got your resume ready. A consulting firm is looking for fresh talent. That evening, I packed my essentials while Rick worked late. The next morning, I heard Diana's voice screeching through the door of my apartment. What do you mean she's gone? Richard, fix this. A Cooper doesn't get divorced. But I was done fixing things. My interview at Summit Consulting was a revelation. Impressive analysis, the VB nodded, clearly pleased. When can you start? Meanwhile, Rick's texts had turned from angry to desperate. Babe, let's talk. You're nothing without me. Delete. At Reynolds, things were unraveling. You've got another harassment complaint, Patricia informed Rick in a meeting I heard about later. The board is concerned. My first project at Summit was to revamp a failing tech division. When the CEO personally congratulated me, it felt surreal. Your wife is making quite a name for herself, Kevin later told Rick. Ex-wife, I corrected, walking past their office with my new team in tow. Diana cornered me at Starbucks. You ungrateful little gold digger, after everything we gave you. You gave me motivation, I replied with a smile, sipping my latte. Thanks for that. The divorce papers arrived the same day as my first executive bonus. As I signed them, an email popped up, an invitation to interview for a director position. Rick sent one last email, too. I heard about your promotion. Maybe I was wrong about you. Can we talk? I clicked delete. From my new office, I had a view of the city, a team that respected me, and a voice that was finally heard. Breaking point. No, this was just the beginning. Later, Amanda raised her glass. To karma. To new beginnings, I corrected, but I had no idea just how new things were about to get. Let me get this straight, Marcus Reynolds leaned back in his chair during our interview. You completely transformed Summit's tech division in months. The numbers speak for themselves, I replied, sliding my portfolio across the desk. Interviewing at Reynolds Corp now, as a potential VP, felt like poetic justice. Very impressive, especially your overseas expansion strategy. A knock interrupted us. Rick burst in, freezing when he saw me. Cooper, we're in a meeting, Marcus frowned. I didn't know you were interviewing her. Your ex-wife's reputation precedes her. That'll be all. Outside, I heard Rick hissing into his phone. Mother, she's trying to get a VP position here. Do something. In the elevator, Kevin caught up with me. Watch your back, he warned. Rick's been meeting with competitors, sharing insider information. He handed me a USB, been collecting it for months. Patricia joined us. He's also been taking credit for his team's work. 3 complaints just this quarter. My phone buzzed with another message from Rick. Back off from Reynolds Corp or else. I finally replied, or else what? You think you're so smart? I made you. I can break you. I forwarded his threat to Patricia. At the next board meeting, Rick presented his innovative strategy. Interesting approach, Marcus nodded. Miss Mitchell, your thoughts? That's word for word my proposal from Summit last year. I have the copyright documentation. Rick's face went white. Later, Marcus called me into his office. I'm retiring next month. The board needs someone who can spot theft and manipulation a mile away. Are you sane? We want you as CEO, he confirmed. Though your ex-husband might have an issue with that. Rick's issues stopped being my concern 2 years ago. The next day, Diana stormed into my new office. You conniving little witch. First you humiliate our family, and now this. Security, I pressed my intercom. Please escort Mrs. Cooper out. This isn't over, she screeched. Actually, it is. Kevin appeared with more files. Rick's been embezzling company funds for years. The evidence is irrefutable. The board meeting was scheduled for tomorrow. Rick had no idea his career at Reynolds Corp was about to end. He thought he'd broken me when I was serving appetizers at company parties. But instead, he'd given me an up-close view of everything that needed to change. My phone buzzed one last time. Brenda, please, we need to talk. I know I made mistakes. I switched off my phone and reviewed the termination papers on my desk. Tomorrow would be interesting. Ladies and gentlemen of the board. Marcus's voice echoed through the boardroom. Please welcome your new CEO, Brenda Mitchell. This is ridiculous. Rick shot up from his seat. She was a waitress. She served us drinks in this very room, and now she's supposed to be CEO. She'll be serving you your termination papers. Marcus replied coolly. Security, please stay close. I took my place at the head of the table. As my first act as CEO, I'm announcing a full audit of all financial activities from the past 5 years. Rick's face turned ashen. You can't do this, he whispered. Oh really? Watch me. Kevin stepped forward, laying out documents. We've uncovered systematic embezzlement through falsified expense reports and josed vendor accounts, all leading back to you, Mr. Cooper. Patricia added, 3 more complaints filed just this quarter. At that moment, Diana burst through the doors. This is a conspiracy. My Richard would never. Mrs. Cooper, I interrupted, keeping my voice steady. This is a closed board meeting. Please exit before security removes you. You little peasant. After everything. 2 security guards stepped forward, escorting her out. Brenda, Rick's voice cracked. Baby, please, we can work this out. Remember how good we were together. I'm sorry about everything. I held up a hand. Save it. 2 detectives entered, their presence casting a hush over the room. Richard Cooper, one of them announced, you're under investigation for corporate fraud and embezzlement. Later that afternoon, I sat in my office, the CEO's office, signing a new set of documents. Your termination papers, Mr. Cooper. I slid them across the desk. Unless you prefer to resign. You've ruined me, he muttered, unable to meet my eyes. No, Rick, you ruined yourself. Your arrogance, your theft, your abuse, it all caught up with you. I'm just the messenger. You wouldn't be anything without me. I made you who you are. I let a small smile escape. You did. You made me stronger. I'll give you that. Now get out of my office. As he slunk away, Kevin entered with yet another file in hand. The audit team found something else. Diana's been involved in real estate fraud using company funds. I didn't hesitate. Forward everything to the authorities. From my office window, I watched as Rick was escorted out, carrying a box of his belongings, his expression hollow. In the parking lot, Diana was visibly breaking down as reporters surrounded her. Later that evening, I called an all-hands meeting. Changes are coming to Reynolds Corp, I began. We're implementing full transparency, merit-based promotions, and a zero-tolerance policy for harassment. The old boys club is officially closed. Patricia's grin was infectious, and I saw a wave of relief cross Kevin's face. The next morning's headlines read, Reynolds Corp names new CEO. From waitress to corporate chief. Right next to it, former executive faces federal charges, and prominent realtor under investigation. My phone buzzed one last time. Rick again. I still love you. Please help me. Delete. Some people call it revenge. I call it justice. So, what would you do if your ex tried to apologize and beg for help after years of mocking and manipulating you? Would you show mercy, or would you do exactly what I did and press delete? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hi, I'm Patricia, a 45-year-old single mom with more family drama than a soap opera. My life's been a whirlwind since my son Jack married Lisa 3 years ago. They blessed me with twin grandkids, Emma and Ethan, who light up my world. But let me tell you, it hasn't all been sunshine and rainbows. Lisa's parents, the Prestons, are prominent figures in our small town. When the twins were born, I expected them to be overjoyed. Wrong. I overheard Mr. Preston muttering at the hospital, another burden on the family name, and let me tell you, my blood boiled. But I bit my tongue, for Jack and Lisa's sake. For 2 years, the Prestons barely acknowledged Emma and Ethan. No birthday cards, no Christmas presents, nothing. It was heartbreaking to see Lisa try to mask her disappointment every time they declined an invitation to visit. Meanwhile, Jack was pouring his heart and soul into his tech startup, and I did what I could to help out, juggling my nursing shifts to watch the twins whenever possible. One night, as I was putting them to bed, Jack burst in, his face glowing. "Mom, we got our first major investor," he exclaimed, and I was thrilled. But something in my gut warned me trouble was brewing. Sure enough, the next day I got a call from Lisa. "Patricia, you won't believe it. My parents want to come over for dinner tonight," she said, her voice laced with hope and confusion. I raised an eyebrow. "What's the occasion?" She hesitated, then replied, "They said they want to celebrate Jack's success." That dinner felt like watching a slow-motion car crash. The Prestons were all smiles and congratulations, but their eyes were as cold as ice. "Jack, my boy," Mr. Preston boomed, clapping him on the back. "We always knew you had it in you, didn't we, dear?" Mrs. Preston nodded, a strained smile barely touching her eyes. I couldn't help but stifle a laugh, earning a pointed look from Lisa. She knew, just as well as I did, that their sudden enthusiasm was anything but genuine. As Jack's startup took off with major funding, things took a sharp turn. One day, Lisa called, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and anxiety. "Patricia, it's happening. Jack's company just got a huge investment. It's life-changing money." My heart swelled with pride, but a warning bell sounded in my head. "That's amazing, sweetheart. How are you feeling about it?" She hesitated. "I'm not sure. My parents are suddenly very involved." And boy, were they ever. The Prestons started showing up at Jack and Lisa's house almost daily. I come over to help with the twins and find Mrs. Preston rearranging the living room, or Mr. Preston cornering Jack about investment strategies. One afternoon, I was in the kitchen with Emma when I overheard the Prestons talking in the next room. They hadn't realized I was there. "With Jack's potential wealth, we could finally live the life we deserve," Mr. Preston was saying in a low voice. "We just need to make sure Lisa sees things our way." Mrs. Preston's reply made my skin crawl. "Don't worry. I know how to handle our daughter. She'll come around." I was still processing their words when Lisa walked into the kitchen. One look at my face, and she knew something was wrong. "Patricia, what is it?" she asked. I hesitated but decided she needed to know. As I recounted what I'd overheard, Lisa's expression shifted from shock to hurt to anger. "I can't believe it," she whispered, a painful realization dawning on her. But it explains so much. In the weeks that followed, Lisa became more aware of her parents' behavior. Almost daily, she called to share her suspicions. "Mom kept pushing me to ask Jack about his stock options today," she confided one evening. When I said I didn't want to bother him with that, she looked so disappointed in me. I nodded, recalling similar manipulative tactics. "Honey, I hate to say it, but I took a deep breath, holding Lisa tight. "You're doing the right thing, sweetie," I whispered. "We'll make sure they don't tear this family apart." Lisa pulled back, wiping her eyes. I never wanted to believe my parents could stoop this low. But after hearing that recording, her voice broke, anger and pain flashing in her eyes. "They've been manipulating me my whole life, haven't they?" I nodded gently. "Yes, and I think they see Jack's success as their last chance to latch onto something big. But they underestimated you, and they certainly underestimated us. Jack's company was on the brink of an IPO, and when it went public, his net worth skyrocketed overnight. The Prestons wasted no time. That very evening, they invited Jack and Lisa over for a celebration dinner, claiming they just wanted to toast his success. I babysat the twins, anxiously waiting for Lisa's call. It came late that night. "Patricia." Lisa's voice shook, barely above a whisper. "They spent the whole dinner urging me to protect myself and the kids. They think I should ask Jack to put half of everything in my name, just in case." She paused. I lied, told them I'd think about it. I feel terrible, but I didn't know what else to do. "You did the right thing," I assured her. "Keep playing along until we figure out what they're really after." In the days that followed, Lisa kept a detailed log of her parents' suggestions, their calls and texts, each more insistent than the last. We were building a case, but against what, we weren't yet certain. That's when I knew it was time to bring in help. "Lisa," I said one afternoon as she came over with the kids, "there's someone I'd like you to meet, my friend Sarah. She's a family lawyer. I think she can help us sort through all of this." Lisa looked uncertain. "A lawyer? You really think it's that serious?" I squeezed her hand. "I hope it isn't, but we need to be prepared. I have a feeling your parents are planning something big." With a reluctant nod, Lisa agreed, and we met with Sarah the next day. As we laid out the whole tangled mess, Sarah's face grew more serious with every word. "This is concerning," Sarah said, leaning forward. "Lisa, have your parents always tried to steer your life like this?" Lisa's brow furrowed as memories surfaced. "Actually, yes. Even when Jack and I were dating, they'd subtly point out his flaws, tell me I could do better. And when I was choosing a college, they practically forced me to attend their alma mater." I chimed in. "And they always seem to hold Lisa back, control her choices. It's more than just meddling." Sarah nodded, jotting down notes. "It sounds like a pattern of control, which may run even deeper. Lisa, document everything. Every interaction, every text. We need a clear picture of what's happening here." As we dove further, a chilling pattern emerged. Sarah uncovered troubling stories about the Prestons. They had a history of ingratiating themselves with successful people, only to use them for financial gain and discard them when they no longer served a purpose. Then one evening, Lisa called me in tears. "Patricia, I just remembered something. Last year, when Jack was working late, my mom kept hinting that he might be cheating. She even offered to hire a private investigator. I can't believe I almost let her make me doubt him." "Oh, honey," I sighed, my heart aching for her. "You couldn't have known. They're your parents. You trusted them." That's when Lisa began recording their conversations, and what we heard was chilling. In one recording, Mr. Preston said, "Once we have control of the twins' trust funds, we'll be set for life. Lisa just needs to play her part." And Mrs. Preston's voice followed, smooth and confident. "It's for the best, really. Jack's too busy with the company, and Lisa's always been easily overwhelmed. The children will be much better off with us." Lisa played the recording for me, her hands trembling. How could they talk about my children like that? I wrapped her in a hug as her tears soaked my shoulder. "We won't let them get away with this, Lisa. I promise you that." The Prestons had one last card to play. The day the custody papers arrived, I thought Lisa might collapse from shock. "They're suing for grandparents' rights," she whispered, staring at the documents in disbelief. "They're claiming Jack and I are too inexperienced to handle our new wealth and raise the twins properly." I felt a surge of anger at their audacity, but Jack's voice cut through my frustration. He was standing in the doorway, confusion clouding his face. "What's going on?" Lisa and I exchanged a glance. It was time for Jack to hear the full story. For the next hour, we laid it all out, the manipulation, the recordings, and now the custody suit. Jack's expression shifted from confusion to shock, then anger, and finally, a fierce determination. "I can't believe I didn't see this," he muttered, running a hand through his hair. "Lisa, I'm so sorry. I should have been paying more attention. Lisa took his hand, her gaze steady. It's not your fault, Jack. They fooled all of us for a long time. Jack squeezed her hand, then looked over at me. What do we do now? I smiled, pride swelling in my chest. We fight back. Together. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Jack threw himself into learning every aspect of the case, often working late into the night with Sarah, our lawyer. Lisa kept gathering evidence, now viewing every interaction with her parents through a lens of suspicion and hurt. And I did what I do best. I supported my family, there for every tear, every doubt, every small victory. One evening, as we sat around the kitchen table, surrounded by legal documents, Jack looked up at Lisa and me, a small smile on his face. You know, he said, they thought they could tear us apart with all this. But look at us now. Lisa nodded, her eyes shining. We're stronger than ever. I felt a lump in my throat as I looked at my resilient, determined children. The Prestons had no idea what they were up against. We were a family, united and ready for whatever came next. The day of the trial arrived, and the whole town seemed to be buzzing. Sarah was a force of nature in the courtroom, presenting our mountain of evidence with surgical precision. When Lisa took the stand, my heart swelled with pride. Her voice shook at first but grew stronger as she laid bare her parents' manipulation and greed. They never cared about my children, she said, her eyes flashing. They only saw dollar signs. The recordings we gathered were damning. Hearing the Prestons coldly discuss using their own grandchildren for financial gain sent a ripple of disgust through the courtroom. But the real blow came when several of the Prestons' former associates testified. Their stories of broken friendships and financial exploitation painted a damning picture of the Prestons' true character. Watching them squirm in their seats, I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Their attempts to discredit Lisa only backfired, making them look even worse. When the judge dismissed their case, calling their behavior reprehensible, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. The aftermath was swift. Our small community, once charmed by the Prestons, turned its back on them. They became pariahs overnight. Lisa made a short but powerful public statement, I'm cutting ties with my parents. Then she turned to Jack and me. And to both of you, I'm sorry I ever doubted you. Months passed, and Jack's company flourished. He and Lisa poured themselves into family and community work, finding joy in giving back. As for me, I finally felt ready to retire, knowing my family was stronger than ever. At our victory barbecue, I watched Lisa laugh with her kids, marveling at how far she'd come, from manipulated daughter to empowered mother. She hugged me tight. I couldn't have done this without you, Mom. I smiled, my heart full. We'd weathered the storm together and come out stronger on the other side. So what would you do if you were in Lisa's shoes? Could you ever forgive your parents for a betrayal like this, or is some damage beyond repair? Would you give them a second chance for the sake of family ties, or would you cut them off completely? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your experiences and insights might help someone else going through a similar situation. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Hey there, I'm Amy Thompson, 32, killing it in my marketing career, and living what I thought was the dream life. My husband, Mark, he's a lawyer, sharp as a whip, though often more married to his job than to me. We've got a cute little house in the suburbs, weekend barbecues, the whole 9 yards. Amy, can you watch Tommy this Saturday? I've got a hair appointment. My sister-in-law Lisa chirps over the phone. Of course, Lisa. You know I love spending time with the little guy. I reply, genuinely happy to help with her adorable, high-energy 5-year-old. Thanks, you're a lifesaver, she says. But there's something off in her tone, a hesitance I can't quite place. I brush it off, family's family, right? Saturday arrives, and Tommy's a whirlwind of energy. Aunt Amy, can we go to the park? Please, please, please. You bet, champ. Let's go tire you out, I laugh, ruffling his hair. We're at the park, and I'm pushing Tommy on the swings when across the street I spot Lisa. She's not at her hair appointment, she's window shopping, watching us with an expression so dark it sends a chill down my spine. If looks could kill. That night, I wait up for Mark. He finally trudges in, looking exhausted, barely glancing up from his phone. Hey, how was your day? I ask, hoping for a moment of connection. Busy, big case, probably working all weekend, he mutters. I sigh, the familiar ache of loneliness creeping in. Mark, can we plan a date night soon? It feels like we hardly see each other anymore. He finally looks at me, but his gaze is distant. Sure. I'll check my schedule, he says, knowing full well he won't. The next day, we're at a family dinner, and Lisa's acting strangely, throwing me these odd glances. Finally, she pipes up, her voice syrupy sweet. So, Amy, how's that big project going at work? Must be nice to have so much freedom. I sense the barb behind her words. It's going well, thanks. How's the job hunt on your end? Lisa's smile tightens. Oh, it's tough finding something that works with Tommy's schedule. If you need any help with your resume or anything, just let me know, I offer, trying to stay friendly. Oh, I'm sure you'd love to help, she mutters under her breath, her voice laced with sarcasm. The tension at the table is thick, but Mark remains oblivious, focused on his food. As we're leaving, I overhear Lisa talking to Mark. I don't know how Amy does it all. Work, taking care of Tommy. I just hope she's not stretching herself too thin. Her words sting, but I bite my tongue. I'm just trying to be a good aunt, a good sister-in-law. Is that really so wrong? That night, lying in bed next to Mark's snoring form, I can't shake the uneasy feeling that something's shifting, that the life I thought was so solid is starting to crack. And deep down, I'm afraid of what I might find on the other side. Sunday dinner comes around again, and the air feels thick with unspoken tension. As I help Tommy cut his chicken, I feel Lisa's eyes boring into me. You're so good with him, Amy, Mark's mom says, smiling. I force a smile and catch Lisa's eye roll. Thanks, I love spending time with him. Oh, I bet you do, Lisa snaps, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Mark looks up from his plate, frowning. What's that supposed to mean, Lisa? Lisa shoves her chair back, standing abruptly. It means I can't take this anymore. I won't let you hurt my son. The room falls silent, my heart pounding in my chest. Lisa, what are you talking about? Don't play dumb, Amy. I've seen the bruises. Tommy told me everything. She pulls Tommy close, shielding him. Tommy's eyes go wide, darting between us. Mommy, It's okay, baby. You don't have to be scared anymore. Lisa coos, her gaze fierce as she glares at me. I stand, my legs shaking. Lisa, this is insane. I would never hurt Tommy, never. Mark's voice slices through the chaos. Amy, is this true? I turn to him desperate. Of course not. How could you even ask that? Lisa spits. I've seen it myself, the way you grab him, how rough you are. It's abuse, plain and simple. That's a lie. I shout, my composure unraveling. Mark, you know me. You know I would never? Mark's face hardened, and his next words hit me like a physical blow. I think you should leave, Amy. What? Mark, no, you can't possibly believe this, I gasped, looking around the room, desperate for anyone to stand up for me. I said leave, Mark roared, slamming his fist on the table. Tommy burst into tears, clinging to Lisa as she whispered soothing words, casting a look of smug triumph in my direction. I'm sorry, Aunt Amy, Tommy sobbed. Oh, Tommy, sweetie, it's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. I tried to reassure him, my voice breaking. But all around me, I saw only judgment and disgust. Faces of people who just moments ago had been my family. Emmy, Mark's dad said, stepping between us. I think it's best if you go. We need to sort this out. Sort what out? There's nothing to sort. I pleaded, desperate. But the only response was Lisa's smug smirk. I always knew there was something off about you, she sneered. Shut up, Lisa, I snapped, instantly regretting it as Tommy flinched. That was the last straw. Mark grabbed my arm, yanking me toward the door. That's enough. Get your things and go. Mark, please, I begged, tears streaming down my face. Don't do this. Let me explain. But his eyes were cold, foreign. There's nothing to explain. I want you out of our house. Now. In a daze, I packed a suitcase, my hands shaking so badly I could barely zip it closed. The family watched in silence as Mark practically shoved me out the door. I'll have my lawyer contact you, he said, his voice empty, as if I were a stranger. Mark, please, I whispered one last time. But he slammed the door in my face, leaving me alone on the porch, the reality of what had happened crashing over me. How had everything fallen apart so quickly? Where could I go? Who would believe me? As I stumbled down the steps, suitcase dragging behind me, I heard Lisa's voice through the window. "It's okay now, Tommy. The bad lady is gone." Something broke inside me. I started running away from the lies, the betrayal, and a life I thought I knew. My world had shattered in an instant, leaving me with nothing but the clothes on my back and a fierce need for justice. Somehow, someway, I would clear my name. The next few weeks were a blur of cheap motels and sleepless nights. I'd sit on lumpy mattresses, staring at my phone, willing it to ring with news that this was all some terrible mistake. But the phone stayed silent. My career soon slipped away too. "Amy Thompson," my boss's voice crackled over the line one morning. "We need to talk about your situation." I swallowed hard. "Of course, sir. I can explain." "Save it. Just take some time off. Paid leave. We'll reassess in a month." He hung up before I could reply. That afternoon, desperate, I found myself in the dingy office of a private investigator named Jack. He sat across from me, eyebrow raised as I slid an envelope over the desk. Every cent of my savings inside. "So, you want me to dig into your sister-in-law's past?" he asked. I nodded, clinging to the sliver of hope that Lisa wasn't as perfect as she seemed. Days turned into weeks. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped, hoping for news. Finally, Jack called me. "You're going to want to hear this," he said, his tone grave. I held my breath as he laid it all out. Lisa's history of manipulation, financial troubles, even a dropped fraud charge from years back. But the real kicker? I've been watching the family's business accounts. There's money missing, big chunks. Guess who has access? My blood ran cold. Lisa. Bingo, I think she's covering her tracks. It all made sense. The jealousy, the accusations, the smugness. But the real bombshell came a week later when Jack showed up with a recording. "I managed to get this from Lisa's house." "Don't ask how," he said, playing the audio. Lisa's voice came through, dripping with false sweetness. "Tommy, remember our little game? If anyone asks, you say Aunt Amy hurt you. Can you do that for Mommy?" Tommy's small voice was confused, hesitant. "But Aunt Amy didn't hurt me." "I know, sweetie, but this is our special game. It'll help Mommy, okay?" I felt sick, my stomach churning with horror and fury. She'd coached him. She'd made him lie. Jack nodded, his expression dark. "We've got her." I threw myself into building my case. Every scrap of evidence, every inconsistency in Lisa's story, I documented meticulously. But I knew it still wasn't enough. I needed someone else on my side, someone who'd seen Tommy in a different light. That's when I remembered Miss Patel, Tommy's kindergarten teacher. On a whim, I reached out, half expecting her to brush me off. "Amy?" Miss Patel's voice was soft but wary. "I've actually been a bit worried about Tommy. He seemed different lately. Withdrawn. Is everything okay?" I took a deep breath and laid it all out. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then finally she replied, "I believe you, Amy. Tommy's behavior. It makes sense now. How can I help?" With Miss Patel's observations added to my growing file, I felt like I had a fighting chance. But confronting Lisa head-on would be reckless. I needed a plan. Late one night, in my tiny rented room, I spread out all the evidence. The financial records, the recording of her coaching Tommy, Miss Patel's statement. Piece by piece, a strategy began to form. "All right, Lisa," I muttered to myself, a mix of nerves and determination fueling me. "You want to play games? Let's play." I picked up my phone, my fingers trembling slightly as I dialed a number I never thought I'd call again. "Mark, it's me. We need to talk, and you're going to want to hear what I have to say." The day of the family meeting, my stomach twisted with anxiety. I had convinced Mark to gather everyone, telling him I wanted reconciliation. But as I entered the room, seeing their familiar faces with unfamiliar expressions of mistrust, my heart steeled itself. If only they knew. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice steadier than I felt. "I think it's time we cleared the air." Lisa crossed her arms, her lips curling into a smirk. "What's there to clear? We all know what you did." "Actually, Lisa, we're here to talk about what you did." I met her gaze unflinchingly, and the room fell silent. Piece by piece, I laid out the evidence. Financial records showed Lisa's embezzlement. Recordings exposed her coaching Tommy, while Miss Patel's statement spoke of Tommy's behavior changes. The room was so still, I could hear everyone's breath catching. "This is ridiculous," Lisa sputtered, but the panic in her eyes gave her away. Mark's face went pale as he turned to her. Lisa, he said, voice tight. Is this true? Before she could respond, Tommy, clutching his mother's arm, burst into tears. I'm sorry, Daddy. Mommy told me to say Aunt Amy hurt me, but she didn't. It was a game. But I don't want to play anymore. Chaos erupted. Lisa lunged to grab Tommy, but Mark's parents restrained her, horrified by the truth unraveling before them. How could you? Mark's voice was barely a whisper, his face stricken as he stared at his sister. I turned to him, my voice cold. How could I? Mark, you didn't even give me a chance to explain. You threw me out without a second thought. Mark reached for my hand, his expression twisted with regret. Amy, I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Is there any way we can? I pulled my hand back, shaking my head. No, Mark. We can't. I've already filed for divorce. His face crumpled, but I felt nothing. The love I'd once had for him had died the moment he chose not to believe in me. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Lisa faced charges of fraud and child manipulation. Mark? Last I heard, he was drowning in whiskey and regret, a shadow of the man I'd once thought I knew. As for me, I turned my pain into purpose. I started a support group for people who'd been falsely accused, who'd watched their lives torn apart by lies. Every week, I listened to stories like mine, offering the understanding I'd wish I'd had in my darkest moments. 1 year later, I stood on stage, accepting an award for my advocacy work. The applause washed over me, but all I could think of was how far I'd come. Thank you, I said into the microphone, scanning the audience. To everyone who's ever been falsely accused, whose world has been turned upside down by lies, this is for you. Our voices matter. Our truth matters. As I stepped off stage, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my boyfriend David. Congrats, babe. Dinner to celebrate. I smiled, feeling truly happy for the first time in ages. The old Amy was gone, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, and unafraid to fight for herself. As I walked out into the cool night air, I thought of Tommy and hoped he'd heal in time. Maybe someday, when he was older, he'd understand what had happened. But now, I had my own life to live, a life I'd fought to reclaim. And nobody, not Mark, not Lisa, not anyone, would ever take that from me again. A cab pulled up, and I climbed in, the driver glancing at me in the rearview mirror. Where to miss? I grinned, savoring the freedom of choice. To the future, I said, knowing I truly meant it. If you were in Amy's shoes, would you have forgiven Mark for doubting you so quickly, or was his betrayal truly unforgivable? Hey everyone, I'm Allison. I'm a nurse, and honestly, I love what I do. It's challenging, sure, but helping people brings me so much purpose. I met my husband, Jake, back in college. He's a software engineer. We were quite the pair, the caring nurse and the tech whiz. We just clicked. After graduation, life picked up speed. We both got great jobs, got married, and even bought this adorable little house in the suburbs. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was ours. We dreamed big, starting a family, traveling, maybe even opening a small business together one day. I remember walking into our home for the first time, surrounded by boxes, and saying, "Can you believe it, Jake? Our own place." He smiled that smile that always made my heart skip a beat and said, "It's perfect. Ally, just like you." Everything felt like a dream. But as they say, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Enter Patricia, my mother-in-law. Now, don't get me wrong, I wanted to love her. She's Jake's mom, after all. But from the start, she was, well, a bit much. "Oh, sweetie," she'd say, eyeing our furniture, "wouldn't this look better over there? Let me rearrange it for you." I brushed it off at first, but then she started poking into our finances. It began small, like, "Allison, dear, do you really need that many pairs of shoes? Think of the money you could save." I laughed it off as her just being motherly, but soon it got worse. She'd show up uninvited whenever we were making big purchases. "Jake, honey, are you sure about this car? I know a dealer who could get you a much better deal." I tried to ignore it for Jake's sake. He'd say, "Mom's just trying to help. Ally, she means well." Then she started insisting, "You two should invest in gold. It's much safer than stocks." I tried talking to Jake, but he kept defending her. "She's just looking out for us, babe. That's what family does." But it didn't feel like she was helping. It felt like she was trying to control us. Every family dinner turned into an interrogation about our finances. So how much are you two saving each month? You should be putting away at least 30% of your income. The constant questions, the unsolicited advice, the veiled criticisms. It was overwhelming. One night, after a particularly invasive conversation about our mortgage, I broke down. Jake, I can't take this anymore. Your mom is too involved in our finances. It's our life, our money. We need to set boundaries. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. Allie, you're overreacting. Mom's just trying to help us secure our future. But I couldn't see it that way. I saw a storm building, threatening to tear apart the life we built. That night, as I lay awake listening to Jake's steady breathing, I wondered how long this perfect life could hold under Patricia's help. Then I saw the bank statement. A huge chunk of our savings was just gone. My hands were shaking as I confronted Jake. What's this? Where did our money go? He looked away, avoiding my gaze. Oh, that Mom found this great investment opportunity. It's going to double our money in no time. I stared at him in shock. You invested our savings without even talking to me, he shrugged. Come on, Ally, Mom knows what she's doing. She's been in business for years. My heart sank. Jake, it's our money, our future. We're supposed to make these decisions together. He just looked at me, almost dismissively. I didn't think you'd understand. It's a complex financial strategy. That stung. I may not be a financial wizard. I wasn't an idiot. So, you and your mom went behind my back because you think I'm too stupid to understand? I said, my voice laced with hurt and frustration. That's not what I meant, Jake stammered, but I was on a roll. No, Jake, this isn't okay. Your mom is way too involved in our lives. Jake's expression hardened. She's just trying to help us, Ally. Why can't you see that? From there, the argument escalated, and it wasn't just about money anymore. It seemed like every aspect of our lives was being pulled into this battle. Patricia's involvement felt suffocating, like she was wedging herself into our marriage. One evening, she came over for dinner, and as soon as she saw me in my scrubs, she wrinkled her nose. Allison, dear, have you ever thought about a career change? Nursing is so demanding, and the pay, well, it's not ideal, is it? I nearly choked. I love my job, Patricia. It's not about the money, I said, struggling to keep my composure. She patted my hand in a way that felt patronizing. Of course, dear. But don't you think Jake deserves someone more financially savvy? Someone who can contribute more to the household? I looked to Jake, expecting him to defend me, but he just sat there in silence. Later that night, I confronted him. How could you let her talk to me like that? She didn't mean anything by it, Ally. You're being oversensitive, he said, brushing me off. No matter what I said, Jake always took her side, and I started to feel like a stranger in my own marriage. Things came to a head when Patricia suggested we sell our house and move closer to her. I found the perfect place, she gushed one evening. It's a bit pricier, but I can help with the down payment. Absolutely not, I said firmly. We're not moving. Jake looked torn. Allie, maybe we should consider it. Mom's offer is generous. I stared at him, unable to believe what I was hearing. Jake, this is our home. We chose it together. We've made memories here. Now you want to give it up because your mom said so. It's not like that, he protested, but it felt exactly like that. Every decision, every corner of our lives. Patricia had her hands in all of it, and Jake let her. The strong, independent person I used to be was fading, replaced by someone who constantly second-guessed herself. One night, as I lay awake, I overheard Jake on the phone with his mother. I don't know, Mom, he was saying. Allie's been really difficult lately. Maybe you're right. Maybe she's not the right fit for our family. My heart shattered. Was this really happening? Was I losing my husband to his mother's manipulations? As I lay there, wiping away silent tears, I realized this wasn't just about money or meddling. This was about respect, trust, and the foundation of our marriage. And right now, that foundation was cracking under the weight of Patricia's influence. A few days later, while doing laundry, I found a crumpled piece of paper in Jake's pocket. My heart sank as I unfolded it. It was a loan agreement, with Jake's signature at the bottom. He co-signed a massive loan for Patricia's latest foolproof business venture without even telling me. When Jake got home, I was waiting. Care to explain this? I held up the paper, my voice shaking. Jake's face went pale. Allie, I can explain. Explain what? That you put our financial future at risk without even talking to me? Mom said it was a sure thing, he began, struggling for words. She needed my help, and what about us, Jake? What about our dreams, our plans? I thought I was helping our future too, he said weakly. By gambling with our savings? By going behind my back? Our voices grew louder as the argument spiraled. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. It was Patricia, of course, waltzing in like she owned the place. I heard raised voices. Is everything okay? No, it's not okay, I snapped. How dare you pressure Jake into this loan? Patricia's face hardened. Now, Allison, Patricia said, her tone dripping with condescension. This is a family matter. You wouldn't understand the intricacies of business. Family matter. I was livid. I'm his wife. We're supposed to be a team. Jake stood there, looking torn, conflict evident in his eyes. Patricia turned to him, shaking her head. Honey, I told you she wouldn't understand. This is why I said you should have married someone more suitable. That was the last straw. Just as I was about to unleash everything I'd held back, Jake surprised us both. Enough, he shouted, his voice firm. Mom, that's completely out of line. Patricia's mouth fell open, stunned. But Jake, I'm only looking out for you. No, you're not, he said, standing his ground. You're meddling in our lives, undermining my wife, and causing problems in our marriage. I could barely believe it. Jake was finally standing up to her. How dare you speak to me like that? Patricia gasped, her face twisted with anger. After everything I've done for you. What you've done is try to control every aspect of our lives, he retorted. You've disrespected Allison, questioned our decisions, and now you've put us in financial jeopardy. Her expression hardened. That girl has turned you against me. She's not good enough for you, Jake. She's just a nurse, for heaven's sake. Jake's voice was cold, unwavering. That girl is my wife, and being a nurse is a noble profession. Allison saves lives every day. I felt tears well up, but this time they were tears of relief. Jake continued, Mom, I love you, but this has to stop. You need to respect our boundaries. If you can't do that, then we'll have to reconsider our relationship with you. Patricia, lips stricken, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. You don't mean that. You choose her over your own mother. I'm choosing my wife, my marriage, and our future, he said firmly. It's time for you to leave, Mom. Patricia stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Jake turned to me, his eyes filled with regret. Allie, I'm so sorry. I've been blind to what was happening. Can you forgive me? I was still processing everything, but I saw the sincerity in his eyes. Jake, I don't know what to say. He took my hands in his. Say you'll give me a chance to make this right. From now on, it's you and me against the world. No more letting my mother interfere. Looking into his eyes, I saw the man I've fallen in love with, strong, caring, and finally, standing up for us. It wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long while, I felt hope for our future. Okay, I whispered, squeezing his hands. Let's fix this together. The weeks that followed were tough, but Jake and I were determined to rebuild our relationship. We started seeing Dr. Martinez, a therapist who helped us work through our issues. Communication is key, Dr. Martinez would remind us. You need to be a united front. Jake nodded, squeezing my hand. We're in this together now, ally. No more secrets. Together, we spent hours untangling our finances from Patricia's influence. Jake worked tirelessly to get out of the co-signed loan. It's not going to be easy, he admitted one night, but it's the right thing to do. I was proud of him for taking responsibility. We'll figure it out, Jake, I said, feeling hopeful. We always do. Patricia tried to reconcile, showing up at our door with teary eyes and apologies, but we stood firm. Mom, we need space, Jake told her. We'll let you know when we're ready. I could tell it wasn't easy for him, but he was choosing us, our marriage, and it meant the world to me. Months passed, and slowly we found our rhythm again. We started planning for our future, making real plans without Patricia's input. What do you think about starting a family? Jake asked one evening. I smiled, feeling hopeful for the first time in ages. I think it's time. As for Patricia, she eventually accepted her new limited role in our lives. Occasionally, she'd send a text or a card, but she respected our boundaries. One day, I received a surprising message from her. "Allison, I'm truly sorry for everything. I see now how wrong I was. I hope one day you can forgive me." I showed it to Jake, unsure how to respond. He sighed. "She's trying, ally. Maybe we can give her a chance on our terms." I nodded, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. We'd been through hell and back, but we'd come out stronger, our bond unbreakable. Looking at Jake, I knew we could face anything life threw at us. We were a team, partners in every sense of the word, and no one, not even Patricia, could come between us again. That's the end of my story. Now, I want to ask you, how would you have handled Patricia's interference in your marriage? Would you have set boundaries earlier or tried to appease her for the sake of family harmony? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more real-life dilemmas and relationship insights. Hey there, I'm Luna. I'm a 32-year-old marketing executive, and let me tell you, my story is about to take a wild turn. For the past 5 years, I thought I had it all with my husband Derek. We were living what looked like the American dream, married to a handsome 35-year-old hotshot lawyer with a smile that could melt stone. We had a beautiful house in the suburbs, 2 cars in the driveway, and plans to start a family. "Luna, honey, have you thought about baby names yet?" Derek would ask with that charming smile of his. I'd laugh it off, saying, "Easy there. Tiger, let's make the baby first." If only I'd known the storm brewing under the surface. Derek's family, oh, they were straight out of a Hallmark movie. His mom, Barbara, was always trying to fatten me up with her famous casseroles. "Luna, dear, you're too skinny. How will you carry my grandbabies?" she'd say, while his dad, Richard, chuckled from behind his newspaper. Even Derek's sister, Melissa, would roll her eyes, but with a smile that always felt more like acceptance than judgment. But things started changing, almost too subtly to notice at first. Derek was coming home later and later, always with an excuse. "Sorry, Luna, big case. Johnson's breathing down our necks about this merger." Then there were the phone calls. He'd step out of the room, voice lowered. I'm not proud, but I started listening at the doors. "Yeah, it's done. No, she doesn't suspect a thing." The words hit like a punch to the gut. Confused, I turned to my best friend, Zoe, over margaritas. "Z, am I crazy? Or is something up with Derek?" Zoe, ever the blunt one, looked at me squarely and said, "Luna, honey, something's fishy. You might want to consider hiring a PI." At first, I resisted, but then desperation won. The PI's report arrived a week later, detailing multiple visits to a urologist's office. My heart raced with dread, but it wasn't until I stumbled upon a crumpled receipt in Derek's office drawer that the full truth came crashing down. My hands shook as I unfolded it, the words blurring through my tears. "Vasectomy consultation and procedure." I whispered in disbelief, "Derek." And as the realization hit, a plan began to form. The next morning, I dropped the bomb. "Derek, honey," I said, steadying my voice, "I'm pregnant." The look on his face was priceless, a stretched smile hiding barely contained panic. "That's wonderful, Luna," he stammered, pulling me into a hug that felt more like a cage than an embrace. Later that week, I overheard him on a call with his old college buddy Tom. Pressing myself against the wall, I strained to hear. "A vasectomy? Are you insane?" Tom hissed. Derek's voice was desperate. "I had to. Luna was getting baby crazy. You know I never wanted kids." The betrayal was like a knife twisting in my heart, but I held it together. I needed more information, and I knew exactly where to start. Enter Sarah, Derek's beautiful coworker, who I'd always been a little wary of. I invited her for coffee, flashing her a friendly smile. "Derek talks about you all the time," she gushed. I leaned in, giving her a conspiratorial grin. "Really? You must have some good stories about him." Her smile wavered. "Well, I don't know if I should say." "Oh, come on, we're friends now, right?" I coaxed, and soon, the floodgates opened. She spilled it all. Derek's flirtations, those business trips that didn't add up, the hushed phone calls. She looked at me, genuinely regretful. "I'm so sorry, Luna. I thought you knew." But the real kicker? That came when I decided to do some digging of my own. Late one night, while Derek was fast asleep, I cracked into his laptop. What I found made my blood run cold. Buried in his financial records was a trail of embezzled money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, all funneled into gambling accounts. My husband, the upstanding lawyer, was nothing but a common thief. "How are you feeling, sweetie?" Derek would ask the next morning, his hand hovering awkwardly over my still flat stomach. "Just peachy," I'd reply with a forced smile. Two could play this game, but as I lay awake that night, my mind raced. I was in way over my head. How far was I willing to go to expose the truth, and when all was said and done, would there be anything left of my life to salvage? The tension in our house thickened, like a pressure cooker ready to blow. Derek's paranoia hit a fever pitch. One night, he stormed into the bedroom, his eyes wild. "Who were you talking to on the phone, Luna?" he demanded, his voice dripping with suspicion. I sighed, feeling the weight of exhaustion. It was Zoe, Derek, same as always. "Don't lie to me," he shouted, his face twisted with anger. "I know you're cheating. It's the only explanation." That was it, the last straw. I snapped, unleashing everything I'd kept bottled up. "You want to talk about lying, Derek? Fine, let's talk about your little secret." His face went pale. "What are you talking about?" I pulled the crumpled vasectomy receipt from my pocket, waving it in his face. "Care to explain this?" What followed was an explosive argument, years of resentment and secrets tearing through us like shrapnel. "Fine," he yelled, his face flushed. "I got a vasectomy, happy now." "Why?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Why would you do this?" Derek's expression hardened, his voice turning cold. "Because you trapped me, Luna. This whole marriage was a mistake. I never wanted kids, never wanted this life. But you pushed and pushed." His words hit like physical blows, each one leaving a fresh wound. "What are you saying?" He laughed bitterly. "I'm saying I've been living a double life, Luna. The perfect husband at home. But outside, I was free. No kids, no responsibility. Just me, living the life I always wanted." Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. It was his family, probably alerted by our shouting. Barbara rushed in, her face stricken with worry. "What's going on here?" she demanded. Derek, ever the snake, turned to his family, his eyes brimming with fake tears. "Luna's been lying to all of us," he said, his voice breaking. "She's not really pregnant. She's been manipulating me, manipulating all of us." I stood there, paralyzed as he spun a web of lies. According to him, I pressured him into marriage, faked the pregnancy, and schemed to keep him trapped. His family's sympathy morphed into cold stares. "Is this true, Luna?" Richard asked, his voice heavy with disappointment. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but before I could say a word, Melissa stepped forward. "There's more," she murmured, her gaze flickering between us. "Derek, I knew about the vasectomy. I'm sorry. I should have told you." The room erupted. Accusations flew, tears spilled, and through it all, I remained silent, watching as the last shreds of my life unraveled. In a daze, I packed my bags, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me like a lead blanket. Outside, Zoe waited in her car, her face soft with sympathy. "You okay, hun?" she asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I shook my head, feeling tears finally spill over. I don't know. I don't know who I am anymore, Z," I whispered, staring out the car window as we drove away from the house I once called home. Everything I thought I knew, my marriage, my future, had turned to ashes. Zoe squeezed my hand gently. "You're the strongest person I know, Luna. You'll get through this." I nodded, wiping away a tear. She was right. This was just the beginning, and Derek had no idea what was coming. Months after the fallout, I threw myself into my work, making the office my sanctuary, a place where I could rebuild myself, piece by piece. "Luna, these campaign numbers are incredible," my boss told me one day. "How would you feel about heading up your own department?" I felt a surge of pride, a spark of the woman I used to be reigniting. "I'd say it's about time," I replied with a smile. But that was just the start. With a newfound confidence, I took a leap and launched my own marketing firm. The day I signed the lease on my new office space, I felt like I could conquer the world. Late one evening, as I was working alone, a memory crept into my mind. Derek's embezzlement. My finger hovered over the send button of an anonymous email to his law firm. For a moment, I hesitated. Then, with a deep breath, I clicked. The fallout was swift. Within weeks, Derek was fired and disbarred, his once golden reputation shattered. Then the hits kept coming. Sarah, his former coworker, came forward with proof of his affairs, multiple affairs. The news spread like wildfire through our old social circles, and Derek's entire world began to crumble. One day, as I was leaving my office, I ran into Barbara and Richard. They looked older, worn down by everything that had happened. "Luna," Barbara said softly, her voice trembling. "We owe you an apology. We had no idea about Derek's activities." Richard nodded solemnly. "We were wrong to doubt you. Is there any way we can make amends?" I looked at them, these people who had once felt like family. For a moment, I was tempted to let them back into my life. But then I remembered the pain, the betrayal. I took a deep breath. "I appreciate you saying that," I replied, my voice steady. "But I think it's best if we go our separate ways. I wish you well." As I walked away, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I was free from the lies, the manipulation, the toxic bonds that had held me back for so long. Months turned into years, and my business flourished. I found joy in the simplest things. A quiet evening with Zoe, the thrill of a successful campaign, the freedom to make my own choices. One night, as I sat on my balcony overlooking the city lights, I reflected on everything that had happened, the pain, the betrayal, and the long journey back to myself. Through it all, I learned an invaluable lesson. Trust your instincts and never ever compromise your values for anyone. Luna's journey through betrayal and rebirth has come to an end, but now I want to hear from you. If you were in Luna's shoes, would you have exposed Derek's embezzlement or kept that information to yourself? What do you think is the right thing to do when you discover someone's illegal activities, especially if that person has hurt you deeply? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might help others facing similar dilemmas. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more compelling stories about overcoming life's toughest challenges. Hi friends, I'm Miranda. I never imagined that my homemade lasagna would be the first crack in the foundation of my marriage. I'm in my early 30s, living what I once believed was the American dream. A beautiful home in the suburbs, a successful husband, and enough time to indulge my passion for cooking. That was me, or at least it used to be. My husband Jack is the quintessential corporate hotshot. Tailored suits, a corner office, the whole 9 yards. When we first married, he couldn't stop raving about my cooking. "Miranda, this pot roast is to die for," he'd say, or "Babe, your apple pie could win awards." Those compliments were music to my ears. But lately, something's changed. It started subtly, a raised eyebrow here, a lukewarm "it's fine" there. Then came the comparisons. "You know, my mom always adds a pinch of nutmeg to her meatloaf," he'd mention, or "don't you think the pasta's a bit overcooked?" "Mom's is always al dente." Jack's mother, Evelyn, well, where do I even begin? She lives just a few blocks away, and her presence looms over our home like a dark cloud. Sunday dinners with her are a masterclass in passive-aggressive criticism. Her sharp eyes assess every dish I place on the table, her comments thinly veiled but cutting all the same. Then last night, something happened that made my blood run cold. As I served dinner, a roasted chicken I'd labored over for hours, I noticed Jack out of the corner of my eye. He was hunched over his plate, phone in hand, snapping a photo of the meal. I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just proud of my efforts. But later that night, I couldn't sleep. I crept downstairs for a glass of water, and there was Jack's phone on the counter, the notification light blinking. I knew I shouldn't, but I looked. In his messages, I found a whole album of photos. Every meal I'd cooked over the past month, sent to one recipient, Mom. The latest message from Evelyn read, "Oh dear, the chicken looks dry. Remind Miranda that a proper brine would fix that. I'll send over my recipe." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All this time, every lovingly prepared meal was being secretly photographed and sent off for expert review. The betrayal stung deeper than any criticism Jack had ever voiced. I wanted to confront him, to scream, to break something. But instead, I went back to bed, my mind spinning. What else was he sharing with her? How long had this been going on? And why wasn't I enough? As I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I realized this was about so much more than just food. It was about respect, trust, and the slow erosion of my self-worth. But what could I do? Jack was my whole world, and the thought of rocking the boat terrified me. So I did what any good wife would do. I smiled, pretended I hadn't seen a thing, and vowed to try harder tomorrow. I'd wake up early and make Jack's favorite breakfast. I'd prove to him, and to Evelyn, that I could be the perfect wife they clearly thought I wasn't. But deep down, a small voice whispered that something fundamental had shifted. The perfect facade of my marriage was cracking, and I didn't know how to fix it, or even if I wanted to anymore. Days blurred together as I threw myself into the role of the perfect wife. But nothing was ever enough. My world shrank to the four walls of our home, each outing an opportunity for Jack to point out my flaws. "Miranda, stand up straight. You're embarrassing me," he hissed at a work function. "Honey, maybe skip dessert. You're getting a little, he added, patting my stomach, though it was still as flat as ever. Each comment chipped away at me, bit by bit. My phone buzzed with another missed call from Sophia, my best friend. But I couldn't bear to talk to her, couldn't bear to admit how far I'd fallen. One rainy afternoon, I caught my reflection in the mirror, barely recognizing the woman staring back. Dark circles shadowed my eyes, my hair hung limp, and a permanent furrow had etched itself between my brows. When had I become this shell of myself? From downstairs, I heard the sound of Jack and Evelyn's laughter drifting up, light and careless. I crept to the top of the stairs, listening. "I swear, Jack, I don't know how you put up with her," Evelyn cackled. "Remember when she tried to make beef Wellington? What a disaster." "Mom, be nice," Jack chuckled. "She tries. It's kind of cute, really, like watching a kid play house." Something inside me snapped. I stumbled back into the bedroom, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps as the walls seemed to close in around me. My vision swam with spots, but I fumbled for my phone and dialed the one number I knew by heart. "Sophia," I choked out when she answered. I need help." "Oh my God, Miranda, where have you been? I've been so worried." As I broke down, years of pent-up emotions poured out. Sophia listened, her calm voice anchoring me. "Listen to me," she said firmly. "This isn't normal. What Jack's doing, it's abuse, Miranda. You need to get out." But where would I go? What would I do? I whispered, terrified. "First things first. I'm texting you the number for a therapist, Dr. Larson. She specializes in domestic abuse. Call her, Miranda. Promise me." I stared at the number on my screen, a lifeline in a sea of despair. With shaking fingers, I dialed Dr. Larson's office. A warm voice answered, and I took a deep breath. "Hi, I think I need help." As I made the appointment, a tiny spark of hope flickered in my chest. For the first time in years, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could reclaim my life. The sterile, white walls of Dr. Larson's office felt like a blank canvas, waiting for me to paint my story. I sat there, fingers twisting nervously in my lap as the compassionate psychologist studied me. "Miranda, why don't you tell me why you're here?" Her voice was gentle, encouraging, and slowly, the floodgates opened. I poured out years of pain, manipulation, and self-doubt. Session by session, Dr. Larson helped me peel back layers of toxic patterns I'd been blind to. "Your worth isn't determined by Jack's approval or Evelyn's standards," she reminded me. What did Miranda love before all this? That question hit me like a lightning bolt. Cooking, not the stressful performances for Jack and Evelyn, but the joy of creating something delicious just for myself. One evening, I decided to make my favorite childhood dish, my grandmother's apple pie. As the warm, familiar aroma filled the kitchen, Jack walked in, his nose wrinkling. "What's that smell?" "You know I prefer Mom's pecan pie," he said dismissively. For the first time in years, I didn't scramble to please him. "This is my grandmother's recipe," I replied, my voice steady. "I'm making it for me." The look of shock on his face was almost comical. Emboldened, I reached out to my estranged sister, Olivia. Jack's subtle manipulations had driven us apart. With Olivia's support and Dr. Larson's guidance, I slowly began rediscovering who I was. "I've missed you so much, Mira," Olivia said, embracing me. "I always knew that jerk was no good for you." I threw myself into activities I'd long forgotten, a cooking class, a book club, and even sketching out plans for a dream cafe. At home, the tension grew thicker with each step I took to reclaim myself. Jack's composure began to crack. "Since when do you talk back to me?" he snarled one night after I refused to cancel plans with Olivia. Since I remembered I'm a person, not your puppet, I shot back, surprising us both. But the real bombshell dropped on a rainy Tuesday. I had stopped by Jack's office to surprise him with lunch, a peace offering, or so I thought. As I approached his door, muffled giggles drifted out. "Oh, Jack, you're so bad," a woman's voice purred. "What would your little wifey say if she knew?" I froze. My blood turned to ice as I opened the door to find Jack entangled with a leggy blonde, Natalie from the rival company. "Miranda," Jack jumped up, his face pale. "This isn't. I can explain." But I was done with explanations. Done with excuses. Done with Jack. I turned and stormed out, adrenaline coursing through my veins. By the time he got home, I was waiting with divorce papers in hand. "What's this?" he sputtered. "Freedom," I replied, my voice steady. "For both of us." His face twisted in rage. "You'll never survive without me. You're nothing." I stood my ground, thinking of everything I had uncovered about myself in therapy. "No, Jack. I'm everything, and it's time I started living like it." As I packed my bags, my eyes fell on my sketches for the cafe. I had lost years to Jack's manipulation, but my future was now mine to shape. I walked out of that house with my head held high, leaving behind the timid shell I had become and embracing the strong, passionate Miranda I was rediscovering. The day I signed those divorce papers felt like a rebirth. Jack's face was a mix of anger and disbelief as I walked away with a fair settlement and my freedom. But I didn't look back. My eyes were fixed on the future, a future I would build from scratch. Opening day of my cafe, Miranda's Haven, was a whirlwind. The smell of freshly baked pastries filled the air as I nervously watched the first customers trickle in. My fears melted as smiles spread across their faces with each bite. Word spread quickly, and soon Miranda's Haven became the talk of the town. Food critics raved about the cozy atmosphere and mouth-watering dishes. But the real joy came from the regulars who found comfort in my little cafe. As the business thrived, so did I. Gone was the insecure woman Jack had molded. In her place stood a confident, radiant Miranda, living life on her own terms. I heard through the grapevine that Jack had married Natalie. Poor fool, I thought, knowing exactly what kind of future awaited him. Months passed, and the cafe's success continued to soar. Then, one rainy afternoon, a disheveled figure stumbled through the door. It took me a moment to recognize him. "Miranda," Jack slurred, reeking of cheap booze. "You gotta help me. Natalie, she took everything." Between hiccups and sobs, he spilled his story. Natalie had played him like a fiddle, manipulating him into signing over his assets and business shares. Now, she was gone, leaving him broke and broken. "Please, Miranda," he begged. "I've got nothing left." I looked at the pitiful shell of the man who once controlled my life, feeling a strange mix of pity and vindication. "I'm sorry, Jack, but your problems are no longer my concern." As if on cue, Evelyn burst in, her usual haughty demeanor replaced with desperation. "Miranda, darling, surely you can spare some money for family." I laughed, a lightness filling me as the last ties to my old life unraveled. "Family? You made it clear I was never good enough to be family. Please leave. You're disturbing my customers." They shuffled out into the rain, and I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. The next morning, I opened the paper to see Miranda's Haven had been named the city's best cafe. I celebrated with Sophia, Olivia, and the wonderful friends I'd made, watching them laugh and enjoy the life I had built from scratch. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of Jack in a fast food uniform, staring longingly at the joy and success he'd lost. He had chosen his path, and I had chosen mine. What about you? What would you have done in Miranda's shoes after discovering Jack's betrayal? Would you have confronted him immediately or played the long game like she did? Your experiences matter. Share them in the comments. If Miranda's journey resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more compelling stories of triumph over adversity. Remember, your voice could be the one that changes someone's life.